it was all based on a lie. So pretty much I was asked, do you have a treatment for this film? I said yes. I didn't have a treatment at all. So then I had to go back, write it super fast, submitted the treatment, but then I was surprised to hear back, and it was okay, well there's some interest in that treatment. Do you have a script? Once again, I was like, oh yeah, I have a script. Didn't have a script.
Hi, everyone. My name is Camille Hugh. Welcome to Film Profit Repeat. Today, I am here with my guest, Clarence Williams IV, and he's the writer of So Fly Christmas, which just recently premiered on BET Plus, November 23rd, right? And so
Yep,
it's already premiered, it's already out, but I am so happy to have him here joining us today to talk about how he took his movie from script to the screen, which is what we talk about here in Film Profit Repeat, and we get an insider look at the process, what it takes to actually get our movies made. So thank you so much, Clarence, for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. I am well. So Fly Christmas, congratulations on your success, by the way, and congratulations
Oh,
on
thank you.
your movie premiering on BET Plus. And I want to just dive right in with the first question, which is how long ago you wrote this script?
Yeah, so this was written back in 2021. So the entire process right, because it started as a treatment. So it became a treatment. Then from the treatment turned into a script. And then from the script, there were a series of rewrites, notes from the producers from BT, a lot of changes that had to be made before getting the final approval. And then the actual production, the film was shot, I believe it was in April, March and April of this year. So it was almost like a 2-year process just to get the whole from script to screen. It took a little bit of time.
Well, I'm actually really surprised that it was only just shot in April. Like that's really fast that they were able
Right,
to
yeah, the
around.
post and everything was quick.
Yeah, that's really fast. And this is your fourth movie, if I'm not mistaken, right? You've had
Yes.
produced 3 other movies before prior.
Yes, so I've written and directed 3 feature films. Then I sold a horror script called Stay Safe. That's currently in not pre-production, currently in post-production. And then I also have So Fly. And then I also have several other projects that will be released next year as well. So I'm, trying to stay busy out here.
You certainly are staying very busy, trying to stay busy. No, you're staying busy. So congratulations on all your success.
Oh,
How
thank you.
okay. Did you go to school for screenwriting? Is this what you studied? Like this is what you always knew you wanted to be?
So it definitely is something that I've always wanted to do. I actually went to college at Carnegie Mellon and I studied directing. So I was a directing major because, I always say writing is my first love, but I also love directing as well. And I love to do both. But I would say if I had to pick between, career as a writer, career as a director, I would choose to write. So because writing, I would say I've been writing even since before I knew how to write. So I would tell stories to my parents. They would write the stories down for me. Then eventually they were like, okay, you gotta do this yourself. So then I started writing on my own. So I would say from ages like 5 until now, pretty much I've been writing my own stories, kind of coming up with my own characters. And it's been a love of mine for, I would say, pretty much my entire life.
Okay. Wow. Kudos to you for because I'm a writer and a filmmaker, and
Mhm.
I have always written like you, like since I was young, but I don't know, when I was younger, I just didn't know anyone who was a professional writer. And so it just felt like such a world away, like something that was so unattainable for me. Because I just didn't know anyone growing up who was making money and a living doing it. Did you have anyone
Right, exactly.
in your family that was like in the industry, or are you like the first in your family to be a professional writer, screenwriter, and director?
So yeah, honestly, I would say a lot of my family, I have like a lot of singers in my family, and I think that would be the extent to the creative side is singers. I think there's also some artists, but for the most part, no, I don't know anyone in my family that is a full-on writer. I know my dad, when he was in college, he made a documentary but he never ended up pursuing a career in film. So I would say maybe he would be the closest I would say to a film person. But I think for me, I was just like surrounded by, I had a good support system in my parents. So even though they didn't end up pursuing full-time careers in the creative field, they knew that that's what I wanted to do. So they were very supportive of that. So I'm definitely very grateful that they were able to, they would take me to those summer film classes and let me watch bunches of movies, especially some movies that I probably shouldn't have been watching as a young kid. But they said, "Oh, you know what? You're studying. You got to learn by watching the greats." So I was able to do a lot of those things. But yeah, I would say yeah, not too many people in my family are writers. So I guess for me, kind of like what you said, it's kind of similar. I didn't really realize I could do this as a living. I just knew I would be interested in doing it if it was possible. But yeah, I never like knew for a fact that, oh yeah, even though I'm telling people like this is what I want to do, I want to write or I want to be a filmmaker. Not that I necessarily knew it was going to happen. I just knew that it was something that I was passionate about. So yeah, I can definitely relate to what you were saying about kind of not having a frame of reference.
Yeah, well, then you went to school for directing. Were your parents like, okay, what's the plan B? Like, or did they just say like, did they say like you have to get like, or this is you're going to school for directing, but like you should also study this other field that's more practical? Or did you get that as well? Or were they just like, okay, cool?
Right, right. So yeah, I would say it was a little bit of both. So even though I did go to a drama school and they did know that I was, uh, you know, receiving a degree in a creative field, I think there was still, uh, I think they kind of gave me a lecture, not a lecture, but kind of made me see that yes, you're going to get a degree in directing, and yes, we know that you want to do this full time, but you still got to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like to them, as long as I was still able to support myself and take care of myself, even if it was working like regular 9 to 5s, because that's what I was doing too. I had regular jobs, like jobs that weren't even related to the film world, because as you know too, like as all filmmakers know, it's a very shaky business, and it's very a lot of times the things aren't consistent. So you do need that 9 to 5 to fall back on, and as long as you don't get so consumed in that 9 to 5 that you don't pursue your dreams, I feel like you could still make it work. Because that's what I was doing. I would have my regular job, then I would save up and I would go still shoot on the weekends or shoot on my days off. I would still write. There was never a time where I didn't write, no matter how busy I was or what other things I had going on. I always made sure that I was writing. So I definitely think that it's definitely possible, and I think being a creative person is definitely something that is achievable, but you do need, that support system, and you do need to realize that even if you go to school to be a filmmaker or an actor, it's okay if you don't blow up immediately after college, and it's okay if for a couple of years you're working, say working at a restaurant or working at a country club or wherever you have to work to take care of yourself, as long as you still find time to pursue your dreams and do what you're really passionate about, you can definitely make it work.
Love that. I was about to ask you that question. Like, were you doing, a 9 to 5 job on the side? But
Yep.
as of right
Yep.
now, are you a full-time like writer, or do you still have like a 9 to 5 job that you're doing while you have all this success in the film industry?
Yeah. So honestly, yeah, even still, I still have my 9 to 5. And some people even ask, they're like, wait, you still have it, even though you sold the scripts and do. It's like, yeah, because and I definitely say I've come a long way, but I say until I'm at that full level where it's just nonstop project, 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 you still need, a little cushion. I will say though, like things are definitely looking up, and things are moving to a point where I can kind of, really pursue a writing career, but it's not there yet. So I
Right.
would say it's coming. It's definitely coming, but at the current level, I still have that. I still have that other job just to fall back on, but it hasn't affected or slowed down my writing or my creative efforts or my filmmaking or anything like that, and it never will. So I'm definitely still 100% writer, filmmaker, creative.
I love that. It just gives people like, a better idea of, because a lot of people think like I'm just going to go all in, which is great, but some you have to also, you know, like you said, pay your bills. And there's nothing wrong with having something to fall back, like a job that's sustaining you while you're still pursuing your writing career. If it'll enable you to, you know, make films on the weekends, like you say, or as long as you're not too consumed in that job or you get no time to write. So it's just a kind of dose of reality, I think, a reality check for people, to know that it's okay. Like you can still work and do that at the same time and still be successful. So thank you for that, for sharing
Oh, of
that.
course. Actually, I was going to share a quick story about that too, because so, and one of the big reasons why I do still have my 9 to 5 is because I did have a time where I said, you know what, forget it, I'm doing this full time, and it ended up backfiring. So that's why I would like to use this kind of as a cautionary tale. So back in, I would say like 5 years ago, I wrote and not directed, but I wrote a script for a comedy film. It was kind of like a diverse version of The Breakfast Club meets Clerks. So it's about a group of movie theater employees, and you kind of follow their life and the different situations that they get themselves into. And what ended up happening, I ended up optioning that script to a company based in Canada. And I thought like this was my big break because they ended up flying. They flew me out to Vancouver. It actually flew me and my whole team, my producing partners. Like they flew us all out. They put us up. They gave us a place to stay. We had like a meeting with them, and it was like this big official thing. They really saw the vision that I was going for. They one of the producers from that company, they were a big fan of Spike Lee. Spike Lee is one of my favorite directors, so we kind of bonded over that, and they kind of saw the type of story I wanted to tell. So we signed contracts. The script was optioned. They was like, oh, we're going to finance this, and we were set. So I had a job at that point, and I quit my job because I was like, oh, you know what? We're about to make it. Like, we're going to get this movie made. They told us, go ahead, start casting people. Let's get ready. We started reaching out to managers, agents, casting. Then, of course, time went by, stopped hearing from them. So we got a little worried, like, okay, what's going on? Reached back out. Hey, we got this actor interested, that actor interested. What's happening? Oh, yeah. We're just putting some things together, but we'll get back to you. Okay, so we waited some more. Then I would say maybe like three months later, after the meeting with them in Vancouver, they reached out. Unfortunately, funding has fallen through. We don't really believe that we'll be able to get this project made. And this was after job had been quit. I was telling everybody, yeah, we're about to blow up. Like I got this movie coming out. So that was, I would say that was where I hit a low point, because at that point, as much as I, love filmmaking and love writing, that was a one point where for a brief moment, I was like, do I even want to do this? Because we burned bridges with certain companies, and it just was a very bad look on us and a bad look on that production company. And the project never ended up getting made, even though, they optioned the scripts. I was paid for the script, and it was just, everything felt like it was going to move in that right direction, but they pulled the plug, and I didn't have anything to fall back on at that point because I had quit my job. So, you live and you learn from, making decisions like that. So that's why I told myself, I'm not doing that anymore.
Never
like
again.
I can't, never, ever again. So like I said, even now, even though I am, getting paid for writing and selling scripts and stuff, I still have just that backup plan, just until I know for 100% sure, like, okay, you don't need to do anything else. You can just do this. You can pursue writing, filmmaking full time, because I don't want another, repeat of that situation. So I just wanted to share that story just for filmmakers and writers out there who are kind of in similar situations. Like, things you may sound good on paper, or you may think you're going to end up, blowing up, and you may well blow up. But just take your time and really make sure that things are lined up, because at any point something can fall through, and then if you have nothing to fall back on, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah, you got to pump the brakes a little bit. Wait till it's not actually over until it's like the movie's shot in the can.
Honestly, yes.
It's like airing. It has its premiere date, and even then,
exactly.
it's like it's a
You have
very
evidence
fickle,
that it exists. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a very fickle like business. It's so strange, but I mean, it worked out, right? Like, I mean, that project maybe it didn't get, but you never know. Maybe like you telling the story, or you'll have another company will pick that movie up and it'll get made eventually, and
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, so talk about like, so you've been able to option your scripts, which is like such a huge feat for a lot of writers. It seems like, how do you do that? Can you talk a little bit about how you were able to get to this point where, because you said you reached out to the company and they optioned it. Were you just cold emailing people, or how did you get that to even occur?
Yeah, so honestly, it's a combination of cold emailing companies, but it's also so because I also am a filmmaker, so I write and direct my own projects. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to be approached sometimes by certain companies and producers. That's actually what ended up happening with SoFly. How I was able to sell my script to BT was I was contacted by a producer who's connected to BT that was looking for material, and that was just because they had seen short films that I had made and they liked how it was put together. So it's a combination of that. So I always would say my biggest piece of advice is, I mean, if you're a writer, always make sure you're writing, studying film. If you're a writer and a director, make sure you're making something, make sure you have something to show. Because a piece of advice that one of my mentors, his name is Mr. Ken Sagos, he's an actor, writer. He always says, don't chase Hollywood, let Hollywood chase you. And I feel like that's very important because if you're spending all your time just kind of sending these blind emails, a lot of times, unfortunately, you're not going to hear back from anybody. So, and it can be discouraging, but as long as you have something else going on, so whether it's, you're creating your own content or creating your own projects, that way you're going to festivals, you're kind of promoting and marketing yourself. You can kind of get introduced to those people that can, help you move forward. So yeah, that's why I think it's always a good thing to do your own work as well as just do work in general. Just make sure you're
Yeah.
always staying creative, writing, directing if you're also a director, editing if you're an editor, just
Mm-hmm.
creating as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, and that's what I'm always telling people. Like as an entrepreneur and like my outside of the film realm, I'm always like, okay, like I just try to do it myself. I know like the DIY route, it's not going to be anything kind of on the level of a Hollywood movie, but it's
Right,
something. Something in my portfolio that I can show people. I mean, so I guess it's a little different for people who are strictly writers because I'm also a writer director, like you.
right.
If you're a writer, then it's just like you said, to just continue writing. Just make sure you have a portfolio of stuff, like, and that you're submitting maybe to contests and winning things or placing in them, and then you're calling the attention on yourself, but at least you're creating, right? So
Absolutely. Actually, I had a question for you because I know you're also a writer director. I know you had mentioned you were interested in writing. How did you get interested in kind of doing both, or how did you get kind of enticed by directing?
by directing, during the pandemic, I was like, well, I have all this stuff written and I have all this free time and I have all these available. My friends who are talented creators and actors in New York, there's like no shortage of talented
Oh yeah, New
people.
York.
Yeah, and I'm sure like everywhere, really, like there are creative people everywhere, and so we banded together and we wrote a web series, and then we were like, well, let's film it, and we would filmed it with our phones, and I would be ashamed to show the first episode. It was terrible. It was horrible, but each time we did it, we got better and better and better, and then we upgraded from our phones to cameras, and yeah, and I found that I loved it. I loved directing, and really I was motivated by people seeing my work because I write so that people can see my story, and it's hard to get people to just read screenplays. So I was just motivated by
Yes,
the fact that like I want to create this because I want people to see it, and if I have to film it myself, that's okay. That was kind of what got me into directing, and I love it. So
hey, see, and now it's like a passion, so that's great.
yeah. So I wanted to circle back to, you mentioned you had a mentor, you have your producing partners. How were you able to find those people? Were they kind of just people that were in your program with you, or just people that approached you from the stuff that you were creating? How did you manage to get like this circle, which is so important to get the right people around you, right? Who can help your career?
No, absolutely. Well, so one of my producing partners is my wife. So that just I just had to happen to end up dating somebody that's also a writer, that's also into the film world. And then we got married, and then we just pretty much have been working creatively together ever since. So I always kind of encourage or promote people that are in relationships with people in that same field, because I feel like you can really help each other and you can really grow together. Um, oh, and then in terms of my mentor, so I actually met Mr. Sagos when I was 15. So when I was 15, I ended up winning a like a teen screenwriting contest at the Erie Horror Film Festival in Pennsylvania. So I went there with my parents, and then that's where we met Mr. Sagos. Now, Ken Sagos, he is an actor, so he was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. He was Kincaid, and he's actually also one of the first African American actors to survive a horror film and then come back for a sequel. So I had known him. Knew who he was before I even met him, because I'm a big horror fan. So I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So when I met him back then, it was just at first I thought he would just kind of be nice, because he kind of took an interest in me because I was a writer, and I didn't even realize he was a writer at that point. I just thought that he was an actor. So from there, he talked to me, talked to my parents, and he said, keep in touch. And sometimes when people tell you keep in touch, especially like Hollywood people, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. See you never. Yeah, so, but actually, luckily, we ended up keeping in touch over the years, with email, keep in touch with Facebook. And then when I went to Carnegie Mellon, and when I was deciding on where to move, I actually had, brief side note, one other thing that Mr. Sagos did for me was he actually runs an organization called the Giving Back Scholarship Program. And pretty much they give scholarships to young students of color who are interested in, pursuing higher education. And what ended up happening, he gave me he contributed some of the financing to my senior thesis film when I was at Carnegie Mellon. So from there, I ended up being part of the Giving Back Foundation and going to the different ceremonies that he would have affiliated with his program. And then from there, that's when I kind of had an interest in, maybe I can move out to LA and kind of see what's out there. And he was actually a big savior for me when I first moved out here, and kind of helping me find some footing and introducing me to people. So yeah, will always be indebted to him for his kindness and his generosity, and for believing in me, even when I was, kind of skeptical myself about, can I make it out here? Will I be able to sell anything? Will people, watch my work? And he was always there to kind of say, yeah, you're gonna make it because I believe. And if and he's one of those people where it's like, that's why we call him Mr. Sagos. What Ken say goes, and he always knows what to say. So,
Well, I mean, he approached you, or he met you because you won a competition. I mean, that speaks to your talent. Like, clearly you were 15, you're winning a competition, like
it was a team competition, so I wasn't like against adults.
That's how yourself, sure. I mean, like, I'm sure there were more than just one entrance, right? So
Yeah.
you won the competition. It were you studying screenwriting and like the structure of screenwriting before that, or are you just a naturally gifted storyteller? Is that
Well, I think for me, I'm an only child. So a lot of time, like a lot of my free time, if I wasn't watching movies or like playing with my toys, I was writing. So I feel like just because I would write so much, I just kind of built an interest in how do I make this better? How do I, even when I'm watching films, I kind of study the films and kind of study the structure of the story and of different scenes. So I've always been kind of just like a student of film, even though technically I didn't really go to a film school, because Carnegie Mellon is more of a theater school. And I never really went to a writing school or majored in writing or anything like that. Those are just kind of interests that have always been in me. So some people, when I talk to them, they always assume, I went to film school, or I had an English degree or something like that. But nope, nothing like that. I just am I think I'm just a naturally creative person. I was just born, and I feel like I was born to kind of tell stories and to create things. That's kind of where I'm happiest, where I'm at my most comfortable, is when I'm doing things that are creative. So I guess I was just born with a love of film and the love of writing.
Yeah. Going back to the writing, do you have a writers group do you have a group of writers that you can solicit feedback on your scripts, or is it just you write it and then you go back and you get notes from the producers, or if you're the producers, let's say, and then you just go back in and do your next draft? What is kind of your process?
Yeah, so depending on what it is, so as of like recently, I've been writing a lot of things specifically to sell, as opposed to just writing like a spec script where it's just kind of writing whatever idea I want to write. I've been kind of writing because I'm in a mode now where I'm, trying to kind of sell things and move forward and kind of keep building the projects that I'm attached to. So these particular projects, the writing process is more so kind of working with the producer. So mainly it's the same producer that was able to get my script to BT in the first place, is partnering with him, and he has notes. And then of course, when you submit projects to different studios and things, they of course will come back with notes as well. So I would say it's a combination of working with them. And then I've also always will consult with my wife as well. We kind of like to give each other notes on scripts. So when she writes something, I kind of will read it and give my insight, and then vice versa. And that's pretty much it. I don't really have like a writer's room. I'm definitely in contact with, filmmakers and other creatives, but I've never actually really been in a writer's room working with more than one other writer. So kind of an area that I'm not fully experienced in, you could say.
Or a writers group, like, because I know I've been in writers groups before where it's just a bunch of us writers and we read each other's stuff and we just give each other feedback on our script, versus a writers room, which I think is like really for TV, right? Like, you don't have any like writers group at all of like other writers besides your wife that you would consult and trust their feedback and opinions on your script?
Yeah, no, I actually
No.
yeah. No, I'm
Wow.
pretty. The only other person that I really would bounce ideas off of and kind of exchange scripts with would be my mentor, Mr. Sagos, because he's also a writer. So I've done that, where I've written things and send it to him, and he would send me some things that he's written. But yeah, aside from that, those would be like the only people that yeah. So I guess I'm a little inexperienced when it comes to actual writers group, or working more in depth with other writers.
Okay. You are so lucky that you're able to go to your spouse, and because when I talk to my spouse about my script, his eyes glaze over. It's like no interest at all, especially in the genre that I write, which is like rom-coms and romance and that type of thing.
Oh, he's not into the rom-coms?
He's not at all. And so you said you are really into horror. Now this is a holiday romance movie. So what were the other two genres that the other two films? What was their genre?
So the very first film I made was a horror movie. And then the two others after that were one was a rom-com, and then one was it was based on a play that I had written. So it's more like a character-driven, kind of like a dialogue-driven dramedy, so a comedy drama. So, okay. But yeah, so this actually, so Fly is the very first Christmas script that I've ever written. I've never kind of dabbled in the Christmas genre before, but I've definitely seen a lot of Christmas movies. So I think I kind of had an idea of the formula and, the different beats and the different marks to check off in the story. And, I think everybody loves Christmas movies. I feel like, well, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people like Christmas movies. And even me, even though I think my taste in film is kind of all over the place. I like rom-coms, but I also like kind of dark, disturbing horror movies. I like gritty dramas. I like I say not really a big musicals guy, but I do like what else? Oh, I like action movies. I like sports movies. So like, yeah, my genre interest is kind of the whole covers the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
But Christmas movies are definitely there.
Well, what made you decide like this one was going to be a Christmas holiday movie? Like, did the idea come first for the movie, or were you just like, oh, I want to write in this genre, and then you built it from there? Like, how did So Fly come about?
So Soulfly came about because, well, one, it came from my interest in romantic comedies because I actually was toying with an idea for a while about a story about friends who give up on love, and then one friend ends up falling in love and has to keep that a secret from their friend. So I did have that idea kind of circulating in my head, but originally it started as being a story between like college friends, a group of guys, and then it changed. I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should make it with women characters, and then from there, I think also like during the that pandemic time where you're watching a lot of movies and you're at home, I ended up watching, I forget the name of it, but it was a movie with I believe it was Jane Fonda and Robert Redford. It was a love story on Netflix, and I watched that, and it was like, you know what? You don't really see love stories, from an older demographic, and I feel like those stories are just as important. So all of that kind of fused into my brain, and I kind of had an idea of doing something about two friends who are in like their 40s or 50s who give up on love, and then one of them ends up falling for somebody and has to keep it a secret. But at that point, I hadn't written it or anything like that. It was just kind of an idea. So then when I was approached about Christmas movies for BT, that idea kind of came back, and I was like, well, actually, I guess you can kind of frame that around a Christmas world. And then from there, the idea started flowing out even more. And but the funny story that I always tell with getting SoFly made is that it was all based on a lie. So pretty much, I was asked, do you have a treatment for this film? I said yes. I didn't have a treatment at all. So then I had to go back, write it super fast, submitted the treatment, and then of course, not thinking anything of it because I was used to kind of hearing no's or not hearing back at all. But then I was surprised to hear back, and it was okay. Well, there's some interest in that treatment. Do you have a script? Once again, I was like, oh yeah, I have a script. Didn't have a script, so I had to go back again. Took about 2 weeks, and I was kind of just stalling and buying time while I was writing the script. And then I ended up submitting that final script, and then it was probably a while. I would say maybe like a month, and then I heard back that BT was interested in moving forward with it. And then from there, it was like, whoa, like really? I think I was also kind of skeptical because, I, especially from that story that I'd shared, like I had been kind of down that path. So I was like, okay, they want to make the movie, sure. So time went by, and then I ended up getting paid for the script. And I was like, oh, wait, this is real. Then after that, it was, oh, this is who we're going to cast. This is the casting, the cast list for the movie. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, like this is, so it little by little it started to become more real. And then I was receiving pictures from the set and just like all of these things. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is an actual product. Then I was also, I was able to check out a cut of the movie. And when I was actually watching it, that's when I was like, okay, I can kind of stop worrying. Like this, yeah, it's an actual movie now. so, so it was a very kind of a crazy process, but I'm definitely very happy and excited.
Yeah, you actually answered kind of touched on what I was about to ask next, which was how involved in the process you were. So is it that you made it sound as though like they option the script and then it's kind of you're not really so involved? Like were you involved with the casting decisions or any of the production aspect of making the movie?
Yeah, so actually the funny thing is I wasn't involved in the casting, but my wife was because she actually does so in addition to writing, she also is a casting director. So she was actually heavily involved in contacting agents, checking in on actors. So she was heavily involved. Me not so much. I would say I was definitely involved, of course, in the writing process, so like the rewrite process. Um, And the cool thing that I noticed was there were certain things where they would tell me, if there's a change that you don't agree with, or if you have a different suggestion, please feel free to, state that. And I was thinking, if it's BT giving notes, it's like, no, you gotta have to do what they say. But it was very much a very collaborative process. Of course, there were certain things where it's like, okay, no, we need to have this happen, or this needs to be done at this moment. But there were also times where it was like, well, I think logically the character might not do this, so I think it'd be better to keep this instead. And a lot of times it was like, okay, great, that's a good suggestion. So yeah, I was definitely involved in that process. I was also even able to give some notes after watching like rough cuts of the movie. So I was able to say, is there another take where maybe you can use this instead, or is it possible that you replace that with this? And for the most part, of course, they didn't listen to everything, but of course, from just the fact that they even listened to me at all was very, very appreciative. I was appreciative of that, especially because as a writer, sometimes it's just you take the script, writers, deuces, and they go off and make the movie. But this, I really felt like a part of the project. Even now too, I've also been doing a lot of like press interviews and things with the cast. So, and I know a lot of times the writers aren't included in these things. So I'm just very grateful that I'm even even considered, that I'm even able to be a part of a lot of these interviews and talks with the cast. So, and I'm just it's been a definitely a very great process, and I'm excited for what's to come. So
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a pity, right? It's like the writer. It all started with the writer. Like you should be getting. I know, like the actors, and everything, but it's like you should be getting just as much shine. I mean, it's
mm-hmm.
your baby. It's coming out of
Mm-hmm.
your brain.
Exactly.
If it wasn't for you, there would be no movie. So
That's some people forget that. Like that's why the whole writer's strike and a lot of things. It's like, yeah, writers do a lot. Like there's no movie, there's nothing. There's no lines to recite. There's no story to follow without a script, without a writer. So,
yeah,
writers are important.
absolutely, 100% agree with that. To go back, so was there any changes in the script while production was occurring, or when you're saying that they were giving you notes and you were changing, that was all up until production occurred, right?
Right. That was up until production occurred. So it was a series of like rewrites and notes, and then the script was locked. And then once the script was locked, then it was given out to the actors, and then they were able to start moving forward with the pre-production. But yeah, so the script was locked, and of course they made some changes to the script during production. That it happens, but for the most part, I was able to really watch it, and a lot of times I could hear the dialogue that I wrote, and that's what I was kind of worried about as well. I thought, especially if it's a comedy and there's some comedians in the cast, of course they'll be changing a lot of things, and like I said, there were things that were changed, but of course I thought it was still funny. But I was just more pleased with the fact that a lot, they really stuck to the script for the most part. So I was just like, oh wow, like I thought, and even certain things I thought they wouldn't keep, they kept. And the biggest thing that I'm grateful for too is they didn't change the character names, because the main character of Dion and Clarence are named after my parents. So I wanted to like make sure that that was able to stay in there, and it was, and they kept in the name Wyvetta too. Wyvetta is the name of one of my mom's close friends, and I always, as a kid, I thought that name was so unique. So I was like, I got to use that name in something. So they ended up, keeping both names. But a lot of people watch the movie and they're like, "Oh, Clarence, you named it after yourself." It's like, no, it's not me. I did this. My dad's name is also Clarence, so it was a tribute to my dad. But it's not, it's not just me being a narcissistic writer. Like, no, it's for my dad. So.
Yeah, that is so sweet. Your parents must be so proud in watching this. Like, oh my God, what a tribute to them. So an
Oh yeah,
honor.
my mom has watched this movie, I would say maybe 10 times now, and counting. She's probably gonna watch it a few more
On
times.
repeat every Christmas, you can expect to watch it till you're sick of it.
Right.
I want to see this again. You have to make another
Right.
Christmas
Okay.
movie so that you can get some relief during
Exactly.
Christmas. Uh, just to go back to, I wanted to just go back to when you mentioned your wife who is in the casting. So how the question for me is it like you tell BT, oh, I would like for my wife to do the casting for this, or does
Mhm.
she have some relationship with BT already that, they're able to, like, how does your wife get to do the casting for your, which is super cool, for your movie?
Yeah, so it was a collaboration with our producer. So the production company, Worldwide Entertainment and Media, that was the company that was able to get my script into the hands of BT. So everything was through them. So even like casting, it was in partnership with Worldwide. So it was Worldwide working with BT, kind of going over the character breakdowns, and then from there, my wife would make suggestions on like different actors or who would be right for this role, and then of course BT also had people that they would like for the role. So it's a combination of putting all of that together and then doing those, making those phone calls to kind of get those actors in place. But a lot of it, most of it stemmed from our partnership with Worldwide Entertainment and Media. So they were the kind of like that bridge.
Gotcha.
They were the bridge from us, and they were also the bridge to BT. So that's how we were able to get a lot of things done.
Understood. And how about now that, I mean, this project is out there in the world? I guess, you're working on your next script, or do you already have something that you're trying to sell, or what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I have another Christmas script. It's actually funny you mentioned making another Christmas movie. I actually have another Christmas script that is being produced by Worldwide that is hopefully coming out next year. Then I also have actually I have a few other projects, some thrillers as well, a few things that haven't really been officially signed off on yet, but are hopefully in the works. But the Christmas movie is something that's definitely been greenlit and is moving forward. So I'm excited for that. I also have and a thriller as well that's already been approved that is moving forward. And then of course just I'm always writing and just submitting different things, and then hopefully just trying to just keep trying to build that resume and get as much out there as I can.
Will you be directing any of those projects? Because you're a director, so
I know that's the thing. So at the current stage, nothing is set in stone, but there is. I will say what I will say is I can neither confirm nor deny my directing. So I can say that. So it's definitely something that is in the works, because I do
so
want to also direct as
mysterious.
well. I know. I got to be a little. It's got to be
Okay.
a little mystery.
Well, that is so exciting. I'm so happy for you. Like, I
Oh,
love to
thank
see
you.
it. I love to see it. And like, how I said before, it's like I didn't know anyone in my world like that's doing it. And the more I speak to creatives, people like you who are able to make it happen, just the more real it feels to me. Like, you inspire me and make me think, keep going and I'll get to where you are. And I hope
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you inspire the people that are like listening to this and watching this, and knowing that you weren't born into it and you were able to make it happen. So thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Just anything you want to add before we wrap up our
Yeah. Just two things. One thing I want to say is I think what you said is right on the nose. Like, anybody can make this happen. It's just you can't give up. You have to have tough skin. You have to be prepared to be ignored. You have to be prepared to be rejected, but you also have to be persistent. So you can't let one no kind of just, that's it, I'm done, throwing the towel. No, use that as fuel. Okay, like this person said no, but maybe these people won't say no. And I feel like if you keep doing that, because I think I'm somebody that I've lost track of how many times I've been told no, or the script just isn't a right fit for us. And, there's plenty of times where I could have just said, forget it, I'm done. But I said no, because, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So it's like, I'm going to make this happen. And, it took a long time. Like, this is not, and that's another thing. Like, it's not an overnight thing. You won't just, I mean, I guess there are a few, miracles where people just blow up off one script and out of the gate, they don't really have to struggle, and they just kind of make it. But for the most part, it's going to be a process. It's going to be a journey. But as long as you have the stamina to succeed, you will make it work. And then my other thing, actually, I just wanted to, because one thing when we had first spoke, I know you had mentioned your film has a similar premise. I'm kind of curious to know a little bit about what your film is about.
Yeah, so my film is called Trouble in Law, and it's a romantic comedy about this people pleaser who's trying to keep her relationship secret from her best friend who is going through a divorce. She's going through like this huge extreme life makeover. And yeah, and so she's expecting her friend to, be by her side and kind of go through this whole phase with her. And so her friend, the main character, is having to do that while maintaining this secret relationship on the side. So it's kind of similar in that she's keeping it from her friend, and she learns to, kind of put herself first and not put everyone else before her or try to be a people pleaser. But it's not. I thought it was so funny when I read your premise. But I mean, it's not a Christmas movie, and I'm sure the script's it's worlds apart, But it's just I wanted to, what I mentioned in the promo is that you can kind of have a similar idea, but it's just the way that we implement the story, our experiences, our life experiences that we bring to our story would make it a completely different story, even though it's kind of somewhat similar in premise,
Right, right.
Maybe it's a sign that you're a good writer because great minds think alike, right?
Exactly. Hey, and actually, is that film, is it released yet? Because I would love to check that out.
It's not. We wrapped at the beginning of November, so
Oh, well, congrats.
yeah, thank you. It's my first feature, so I'm not at 3 yet, but or 4.
Oh, hey,
But
even
yeah,
making one, you're already ahead of the game. So no, that's amazing.
yeah, it was. I wrote it, and I directed it, and I produced it, and I acted in it. I wore way
Oh,
too many
acted
hats,
too.
way too many. Like,
Okay, so you
but
did it all.
I did it all. But I also learned so much, making it, and I can't wait for it to be out there in the world for people to watch. So, the feeling that I'm sure you're getting when you're thinking like, oh my God, like this is my story, that it's here in front of me. People are looking at it and watching it, and it's resonating with people. And like, I'm sure tons of people are reaching out to you, and
Yeah.
like that must feel so amazing. I
Well,
mean,
it has its pros and cons because you also got people that reach out. Hey, how do I get my send my script to BT? Or hey, contact this.
oh,
It's like I can't, I can't do all that,
yeah.
So you get the weird messages, but you also get the messages like, I really enjoyed the movie, and people
Yeah.
just asking questions about like the process. And me personally, I think I'm a very approachable person, so I always like to answer questions for the most part. But you get the weird messages
Yeah.
as well.
Right. Well, as you continue to make movies, I guess like the good kind of comes with the bad, but hopefully the good outweighs, the bad.
No, definitely,
It comes with
definitely.
the territory, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Other than thank you for having me. I think it's been a great talk.
Yeah, thank you so much for speaking with me. If you want to just share your socials or where people can find you, if they want to learn more about you or about your projects, you want to
Yeah.
give that?
Yes, actually, I have two Instagrams. So there's one that's called Williams IV Productions. So Williams, the number 4 Productions, and then also have my personal Instagram that is C the 4. So the letter CTHE and then the number 4.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Clarence, for chatting with me. This has been like just so great to hear your insight on how you brought this to life and wish you continued success. I'm sure
Thank you.
that
Same to
will
you.
unfold anyway. Thank you all for joining us at Film Profit Repeat, and stay tuned for the next episode. Be sure to follow Clarence on his socials, and you can follow me at Sittin' Pretty on Instagram, at Sittin' Pretty Productions on YouTube. All right. Thanks you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.